December 3, 1944. Ardennes, Belgium. A thin frost coated the rolling hills, each tree and hedgerow etched in brittle ice, glittering under the dim winter sun. The low, guttural roar of engines punctuated the stillness, vibrations crawling under frozen boots. Lieutenant Edwin Leiper crouched behind the M18 Hellcat, hands gripping cold steel, eyes fixed on the distant hum of approaching Panther and Tiger tanks. To anyone else, the Hellcat's angular, toy-sized frame would have seemed fragile, a child's model against the monstrous German beasts rumbling through the landscape. But inside, its engine thrummed like a caged predator, promise in every stutter and rev. Shadows of tanks stretched across the undulating fields, casting black, elongated silhouettes that merged with smoke curling from distant shell impacts. Each exhalation of steam from the Hellcat's exhaust seemed louder than the world itself, a metallic hiss against the crunch of frozen leaves beneath Leiper's boots. The men of the 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion moved with surgical precision, camouflaged in mud and frost, rifles slung, eyes scanning. Every snap of a twig, every distant echo of armor grinding over cobblestones, sharpened nerves into knives. The first radio ping broke the silence. A terse voice, clipped with tension, column sighted. Coordinates confirmed. Leiper's pulse spiked, each beat a hammer against ribs. Visibility was low, snow drifted across the ridges, whipped by gusts that stung skin through wool gloves. The Hellcat's speed was their only advantage, its armor insufficient to withstand even a grazing shell. Leiper imagined the barrels of German cannons swinging toward them, heavy and inevitable, and the thrill of survival mingled with fear. Nearby, other Hellcats hunched in hollowed embankments, their angular shapes disappearing into frost and shadow. Engines idled silently now, a predator lying in wait, every panel of metal taut with anticipation. Leiper adjusted his binoculars, tracing the movement of a panther prowling the distant road, its tracks carving black scars into snow. Smoke from a skirmish half a mile ahead coiled skyward, ghostly tendrils caught in sunlight, as if warning of the violence yet to come. A faint crunch echoed behind them. Leiper froze, scanning. Frost-laden branches swayed, releasing a cascade of ice crystals into the air. The Hellcat's engine shivered at his touch, a silent promise of lethal velocity. Every sense sharpened, the metallic tang of cooling coolant, the faint odor of burnt diesel, the hollow reverberation of distant artillery. Even the wind seemed aware, pushing snow against their faces like a ghostly adversary. Leiper's mind ran tactical sequences, each maneuver plotted in real time. Ambush positions, escape vectors, kill zones, every inch of terrain memorized. The Germans believed the M18's armor made it disposable. They mocked its size, its lightweight frame, calling it a toy. They did not yet know the precision, the speed, the cunning that could turn a toy into a spectre of death. A low rumble grew into a roar. The first Panther clawed over a ridge, its tread shredding frozen earth, gun barrel gleaming in weak sunlight. Shadows stretched, smoke curling from distant wreckage. Leiper's fingers tightened on the gear shift, cold steel biting into his palms. He waited, heart in sync with the engine's growl, every nerve alive with calculated anticipation. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of burnt oil, wet metal, and frost. Every second expanded, stretched into a tension wire ready to snap. Leiper glimpsed movement along the flanks, the Tiger, massive and slow, lumbering over churned snow. The Hellcat's gunner scanned, adjusted sight, finger brushing the trigger, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Silence became unbearable, each breath audible in the cockpit, a counterpoint to the relentless rumble outside. The first Hellcat crested a ridge, engine screaming, tires crunching snow. German armor turned slowly, unaware of the predator hiding in plain sight. Leiper's pulse synchronized with the rhythm of the approaching enemy. Each second was a step closer to annihilation or survival. The frostbitten air throbbed with imminent violence, and the battlefield awaited the spark that would ignite it. The second Hellcat leaped forward, low across the frozen expanse, its engine screaming a predatory song. Panthers on the road barely registered the movement, their focus elsewhere. Leiper's Hellcat followed, tires tearing into the snow, leaving a jagged scar through frost and mud. The Germans' laughter at the M18's size became a distant echo, drowned out by the whine of a smaller, faster machine ready to strike. Smoke from distant skirmishes mingled with the winter sun, creating a haze that warped reality. Leiper's hand hovered over the trigger, knuckles white, as the Tiger lurched across the valley, turret swiveling in slow menace. The Hellcat's light frame allowed him to skirt the edge of tree lines, hiding in shadows cast by hedgerows and ruined barns. Every breath was calculated, every heartbeat matched with the engine's pitch. A shell hit nearby, tossing mud and snow into the air, shards of frozen earth scraping across metal. The Germans were advancing, oblivious to the ambush awaiting them. Leiper's mind calculated trajectory and timing, knowing the M18's speed allowed hit-and-fade tactics that could cripple the enemy before they even returned fire. The smell of scorched metal and diesel filled his nostrils as he gauged the next move, a deadly game of chess played at 100-mile-per-hour risk. Overhead, the sky was muted grey, clouds low, pressing down on the battlefield like a suffocating ceiling. Visibility dropped, snowflakes swirling, muffling the distant roar of engines. Leiper's Hellcat slipped between shattered trees, its outline barely distinguishable against frost and shadow. Every second brought them closer to confrontation, every shadow could hide destruction or death. A Panther moved into the kill zone, unaware of the trap. Leiper's gunner adjusted the sight, calculating distance, wind, and slope. The first shot rang out, a metallic crack that split the frozen air. Impact sent a cloud of debris skyward. The Panther lurched, smoke streaming from the engine. Leiper's Hellcat reversed, wheels spinning in snow, already planning the next angle, the next strike. The battalion executed hit-and-fade maneuvers, ghostly predators slipping between trees and hedgerows. Each strike precise, sudden, and devastating. The Germans scrambled to respond, frustrated by a foe that appeared and vanished with impossible speed. The winter wind carried the sounds of engines, explosions, and shouts, layering chaos atop the frozen landscape. Leiper's Hellcat raced along a ridge, scouting for targets. The thin armor that had seemed a liability now allowed mobility that defied expectation. He calculated risk and reward with every meter, aware that even a grazing hit could mean destruction. Smoke and shadows created illusions, German commanders misjudging distance, speed, and intent. The M18, once mocked, became a phantom stalking their columns. A Tiger attempted to flank them, tracks tearing through icy soil. Leiper's Hellcat darted through a narrow pass, engine screaming, snow spraying in arcs. The Tiger's main gun swiveled too late, shells impacting behind, bouncing harmlessly off frozen ridges. Speed, precision, and terrain became their shield, the Hellcat moving like liquid metal, impossible to trap. The smell of charred engines and scorched earth filled the valley, merging with the tang of fear. German officers shouted through megaphones, but orders arrived too late, the M18s already striking again. Leiper's heartbeat matched the rhythm of engines and distant artillery, each strike a note in a deadly symphony. The battalion circled, reappeared, vanished, an unstoppable predator haunting the winter roads. Leiper noted the exhaustion in the German crews, the hesitation in their maneuvers. They had underestimated speed, underestimated precision, underestimated a machine that moved like a shadow. The battlefield itself seemed to bend to their advantage, frost and terrain weaponized alongside men and metal. The wind gusted, carrying smoke, frost, and tension. Every maneuver was a whisper of inevitability. The Germans, once confident in their superior armor, now faced terror in a toy-sized predator that struck without warning and vanished before retaliation. Leiper's Hellcat rose over a crest, sighting the next column of armor, already plotting the next strike that would cement the M18's reputation as an unstoppable force. The morning of December 10th brought snow that fell like ash over Ardennes roads, reducing visibility to barely 50 meters. Leiper's Hellcat patrolled along a hollow ridge, cold biting through wool and steel. A column of Panther tanks appeared, plowing through snow, unaware that death waited in the folds of the landscape. Engines growled in the frozen air, treads grinding the earth beneath. Shadows shifted, smoke curled from distant skirmishes, carrying the scent of molten metal and burned oil. Leiper advanced cautiously, low and fast, hedgerows masking the Hellcat's angular frame. The first Tiger lurched into view, turret swinging, tracks cutting black grooves in white frost. Leiper's gunner lined up the shot, adjusting for snow, wind, and slope. The shell struck the engine block, a violent eruption of fire and smoke, metal twisting under sudden heat. The Tiger shuddered, incapacitated before it could bring its gun to bear. German crews scrambled, panicked, shouting commands as their massive vehicles lurched and spun in confusion. The Hellcat darted from cover to cover, engine screaming, leaving a scar of frozen mud in its wake. Every maneuver precise, pre-calculated, leveraging speed against brute force. Leiper's mind catalogued every angle, every flinch of armor, every stagger of a turret. Death had a rhythm, and he was keeping perfect time. The battalion's ambush unfolded with surgical precision. Panthers fell into preset kill zones, their hulls punctured by rapid, unexpected strikes. Smoke and flame rose into grey sky, shadows dancing in the pale light. Leiper's Hellcat zipped between trees, invisible until the kill shot erupted, then gone before retaliation could strike. The battlefield became a ghostly chessboard, each move lethal, each retreat calculated. Visibility worsened as the snow thickened, each white flake a silent witness to carnage. The roar of engines, the cracking of gunfire, the hiss of coolant and steam, layered over one another in a chaotic symphony. Leiper's pulse synced with the cadence of destruction, nerves taut as bowstrings. He noted every tremor in his Hellcat, every shiver of metal, every echo of impact, adapting instantly. A Tiger attempted an intercept, barreling down a narrow valley. Leiper darted into a concealed hollow, engine screaming, wheels churning snow. The Tiger fired, shell screaming past, tearing a frost-laden tree in half. Leiper reversed, pivoted, returned fire with deadly accuracy. The shell hit the side armor, igniting fire inside, smoke curling skyward. The M18 speed was its salvation. The Tiger's power was irrelevant against movement it could not track. The Germans regrouped, trying to form a coherent line, but the ambush had shredded coordination. Every attempt at retaliation ended in more destruction. Panthers immobilized, Tigers burned, men disoriented. Leiper noted the psychological toll: fear, hesitation, miscalculation. The toy-size Hellcat had become a nightmare, a force that destroyed with invisibility and velocity. Snow fell heavier now, muffling movement, obscuring distance. Leiper's Hellcat weaved between shadows and smoke, every meter calculated, every angle lethal. The Germans called in artillery, but coordinates were wrong. The battlefield itself seemed to conspire against them. Frost and terrain became partners in the ambush, every hill and hollow utilized to maximum effect. By midday, the Ardennes fields were littered with destroyed German armor, black scars across white snow. The battalion held positions like specters, engines purring, guns ready, shadows melting into frost. The M18 had proven its worth not through armor or brute strength, but speed, cunning, and lethal precision. Every tank destroyed, every enemy delayed, reinforced the legend: the Hellcat was the hunter, the German armor prey. December 15, 1944. Ardennes, Belgium. Silence descended over the battlefield, punctuated only by the occasional hiss of cooling metal and distant rumble of retreating vehicles. The snow was stained black and red, a cruel tapestry marking the route of German columns and the Hellcat's path of destruction. Lieutenant Leiper and the 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion moved carefully, scanning every ridge and hollow, aware that one misstep could end the streak of survival. The smell of scorched steel lingered in the cold air, mixed with frost and the faint tang of burnt oil. Bodies of tanks slumped against hedgerows, twisted metal jutting like skeletal limbs. Leiper noted the empty crew compartments, abandoned helmets, and scorched interiors. The battlefield was quiet now, but the echoes of chaos lingered, a testament to the M18's lethal ballet. German commanders were recalculating, disbelief etched into every line of their faces. Reports of toy-size Hellcats destroying their best machines reached headquarters, shaking confidence in the armor advantage. What had seemed an insignificant threat now dictated strategy, forcing shifts in movement, timing, and risk assessment. The Ardennes offensive would no longer be conducted with the assumption of invulnerability. Leiper's Hellcat rolled along a ridge, frost crunching beneath wheels, engine purring low. The battalion had survived, but the cost was present in every scarred vehicle, every shivering man, every sense heightened by weeks of constant tension. The speed and precision that had saved them would define their continued approach. Ambush, mobility, and fear became tools as vital as ammunition. The sun dipped behind clouds, casting long shadows over the frozen battlefield. Smoke from destroyed German armor drifted upward, mingling with fading light, creating ghostly silhouettes that seemed to watch the survivors. Leiper paused, taking in the magnitude of what had occurred. Machines once dismissed had rewritten expectations, tactics reshaped by velocity and cunning. The M18 Hellcat, once mocked, had earned respect through devastation. Its speed, maneuverability, and lethal accuracy had turned tides, forced recalculation, and changed the perception of armored warfare. The frozen fields of Ardennes bore witness to a quiet revolution in strategy: mobility over armor, cunning over brute force. As night fell, frost settling like a shroud over shattered tanks, Leiper allowed himself a rare pause. Engines idled, men moved quietly, and the battlefield exhaled a slow, tense sigh. The war was far from over, but the lessons were written in steel and snow. A small, fast predator could strike terror into the largest of beasts. Leiper's gaze lingered on the horizon, where faint light reflected off distant armor. In that quiet moment, the weight of survival and the shadow of destruction merged. Ardennes had changed, German assumptions had been shattered, and the Hellcat had proven that size and armor were not the only measures of power. The snow settled, silent now, as if the battlefield itself acknowledged the victory of speed, precision, and relentless resolve.